Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I'm going to tell you right now that the next 25, 30 minutes are going to really make you think. Going to make you think about your relationships, but also about yourself and defining what type of personality type you really are. And that really kind of dictates who you connect with and who you don't and where the rifts may be. He's somebody that helps people with this all the time in terms of their relationships, specifically partnerships and marriages. He's got a master's degree in counseling, and he is back with us. Paul Zohab joins us on the program. Paul, welcome back. How are you?
Very well, thank you. The new year is being very fruitful and productive.
Excellent. And before we dig into the personality types that people do have and how that connects or how that works, the synergy around others. Why don't we recap things that we talked about last week? Love languages was a big topic we dabbled into, right?
Right. Part of the dashboard for marriage, much similar to a dashboard for your automobile, has insights and best practices. Skills, insights, and best practices. And the very first place we go to, or one of the second place we go to, is learning how to love them so they feel it. In which case, we're referring to the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And when you read it aloud together and take the quiz together, you'll find out that one of you likes to be appreciated. That's me. But one of you expresses love by taking care of things, acts of service, which is my spouse. And once we know that, life becomes a dance. I say, let's go X place. She'll say, yes, and let me do laundry first. It can be as easy as that. Learning how to effectively love your partner using the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
Got it. And that's one part of the love language, but then there's the personality. And if you have any questions today, you want to reach out, you can get us at instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. You can also call us at 631-319-6275. Okay, personality types. Are there many, or are there a few that are, by and large, who we really are?
When we explore what is known as the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, alongside love languages, the two of them work really well together. For those who are interested, you can go to 16personalities.com, take the quiz there without overthinking the questions, because if you're like me, I can find 3 right answers in a multiple choice. Let's not do that. You'll get a report. There'll be 4 letters and 4 percentages. There'll be an introvert or an extrovert. There's an introvert or extrovert. You might be a sensor or intuitive, a thinker, feeler, or judger, perceiver. And you'll have a percentage that goes along with all those letters. And it's been very productive in my practice that when you know, for instance, that one of you is an extrovert, you tend to go out and have a vivid social life. You like people, you get energy from people, you come back with more energy than when you left. However, many of us are married to introverts, me being one of them. And I'm pretty self-contained. I don't have a lot of friends. I don't even prioritize spending time with friends. And so once you know, an introvert knows that they're married to an extrovert, it's no longer upsetting that, why are you spending all those times with your friends and not spending time home with me? Kind of goes away, because you understand that it's necessary for them to have a social life, for example. And then if you happen to be the extrovert, you come home and take the kids out to the pizza store so that your introvert can have some quiet time to themselves. We're looking at the dance between an introvert and extrovert. One of the most vivid and successful examples is that a Border Patrol agent was married to an introvert. They had a 2.5-year-old daughter together. So what do? The extrovert gets the daughter up, fed, breakfast, dressed, and has good quality father-daughter time with his daughter, because he doesn't go to work till about 10 in the morning. So he takes the daughter out, feeds her, dresses her, plays with her, and by the time he leaves for the Border Patrol, his spouse has had an hour or even 2 hours to herself. Brilliant. These are the kind of agreements we can arrive at once we know what it takes to be each other. Introvert, extrovert. I mean, one person was a 99% extrovert. He sings in a rock band. Makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Someone else is a 99% introvert, and she, in this case, lives her life within the bounds of her home and garden. She gets up, chats, music, books, music, internet, Zoom, cable, and she can go from morning to evening with relatively little social contact. And they're happy that way. I am happy that way, for instance. But, too much people will tend to exhaust an introvert, and we get to be responsible for that. The second letter pair is sensor or intuitive. Sensors are interested in how to do life. They're really interested in why they ought to do what they do. They follow policies, procedures, rules, regulations, and recipes because they want to how. If you ask them why you do it that way, they think you're nuts because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how I learned to do it. I know the intuitives, that's me, love to figure things out. I enjoy the big ideas, the big ahas. And I'd rather prevent domestic violence than treat it, because that's where I started 30 years ago. Those are two of the letters we get, two of the different sets of letters we get to look at. Any questions, Steve?
Yeah, I do. Do you find that people seek out what they're not? For example, somebody who is an introvert may marry somebody who's an extrovert, maybe vicariously living their life through them. Just they admire that because they're not that. Do you find that many times in relationships?
Often. I mean, and we benefit because my spouse is an extrovert and I adore her enormously. And she's found a bunch of older couples like we are. She has friendships with them. She's on the board with them. She likes folk dancing with them. And we go out to dinner with a couple who often the guy tends to be the introvert. So with my spouse in my life, I have access to a 360-degree life. And for example, an extrovert was married to an introvert. She wanted to take him out to see all her friends. And he goes, but now they have a two-car solution. She goes to visit her friends. He shows up an hour later, stays for an hour, goes home. Done deal. And if I feel a bit overwhelmed in a very noisy dining room, I'll go out and spend a few minutes in the living room to recharge and then come back. Together, we have a 360-degree life, whereas individually, as an introvert extrovert, we have a limited access to life.
Well, I guess it's interesting when you look at it, because if you had two people who are introverts, then you might not experience all the things in life that you potentially could if one person is an extrovert. So I guess it plays both ways. How about some other types of personalities?
Well, there's judges and perceivers, the letter J or letter P. Judges have a significant need to know as much as possible ahead of time to produce the anticipated results. They like to get things out of their way as soon as possible. They, for instance, pack the trunk of the car the night before they leave. I mean, I've said to my spouse, it's 10 o'clock at night. Can't we pack the trunk at 6 in the morning? But I know that if we pack the trunk at 10 o'clock at night, it's easy for her to fall asleep. It's not on her list. She shops with a shopping list. She wouldn't go shopping without going to a shopping list. And she's into accomplishing shopping, and I'm into the experience of shopping. So sometimes we've gone to Costco with 2 shopping carts. She gets the list, which she maintains a week long, and I get to explore all the possibilities, the new flavors, the things that are on sale, and that chicken looks really good. And she'll call me from the other end of Costco, and I'll say, she'll say, I'm ready to check out, does she? And I go, fine, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Knowing who you're married to and how they process the world is critical, to the point where I encourage people to get hold of a blotter calendar to which they put down everything they've promised to each other to do. Because when we don't do that, people who are perceivers like me tend to fade our attention. I'm a little bit, I could say I'm more like out of sight, out of mind. Whereas my spouse, she says, now time to go, let's go. But we put it on a calendar. So I know in sight, in mind, that on Saturday we're going to go out. She puts it on her Google Calendar and it shows up on my Google Calendar. So we maintain an integrity of two personality types, the judger and the perceiver. I understand that. So it's easy just to put it on the calendar so we don't forget, or it shows up in my Google Calendar so I don't forget. And we have domestic harmony. I mean, one case, they were married for 52 years, and he doesn't keep his promises for more than a week at a time. And she says, "You're lying to me. I can't believe anything you say." But now they have a calendar, and he sees the calendar, and they're in tune with the calendar. So if he says something, it's on the calendar, and we have domestic harmony.
Is it that he's not trying to not keep his word? Just forgot. It just, he said it. Yeah, you know what? Saturday, let's go hang out with that couple. That'd be great. We'll go to the movies. We'll go to dinner, whatever it might be. But let's say it's 3 Saturdays from now. And then time goes on, a week and a half goes. He just forgot. He's not intentionally meaning to hurt his spouse. It's just out of his mind. He didn't remember it.
But having the blotter calendar on a dashboard keeps things in sight and in mind. In fact, they actually meet at 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and look at the week ahead. Is there anything that's not on the calendar that should be on the calendar? If it's not on the calendar, let's put it on the calendar. So we enter Monday morning on the same page.
I can totally relate to this. I'm in a relationship with somebody. I guess I would be the judger, because I want to know what we're doing. We have a week. Here's the week out. When are we doing this? When are we getting together to do this? How about this? How about that? She wait till, Monday, Tuesday, not even thinking.
That's me. But once you have the calendar, there's a few other versions of this I encourage people to adopt. It's in sight, in mind, instead of out of sight, out of mind. It's really not much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
We say on Sunday afternoon at dinner, let's look at last week. What did we promise that we didn't fulfill? Let's repromise it for next week. We restore integrity to the week behind, and then we enter the week ahead together on the same page.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe too, if you don't do that, the perceiver possibly may, in their mind, I guess the judger, it could be this way too. They may be thinking of it. And it's just assuming that, yeah, we'll get to it. You'll know what it is, but then it's not documented. So in their mind, it's up there, but it's not coming out verbally. I do believe you have a call. Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Camara.
Camara from Orlando. Welcome. We have
Hi.
Paul's here. You have a question?
Oh, me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. I'm in a new relationship about 6 months, and he wants to move in. I feel like it's too soon. How would I go about it?
Well, as I mentioned in an earlier podcast, your first word is yes, means I heard you. And let's sit down and discuss all the things that we have to take into consideration before we choose to move in together. So
Right.
Your first response is, yes, Sam, let's look at it. When's a good time?
Right. Exactly. When is a good time?
And then we haven't talked about it in the podcast yet. Maybe the next time is literally how to leave them feeling heard, honored, and respected, and you as well.
Right.
And I call it briefly volleyball listening. She says, I'd like to move in. You catch her statement on the edge of your ears and you say, yes, what I hear you saying is that you'd like to move in. Did I get that right? She says, yes. Pop it across the net. She says, yes, and I'm ready to move in with you. I really think we have a lot going together. So pop across the net, you catch it on the tips of your ears, you don't take it personally.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that one of us, we avoid the word you, by the way, is ready to move our relationship to the next level. Did I get that right? This is
Correct. Yeah.
an introduction to how to manage a conversation where everybody gets to be heard. And we spent 5 sessions getting to relationships that last a lifetime. So this is just a brief, but yes and is your first best friend, because yes means I heard you and lets you steer.
When you're in that situation where, you know, his girlfriend is asking to move in, how detailed do you get? Right. I always wondered, like, you know, because you have to ask those questions. How soon do you start getting detailed into finances and
Right.
things like laundry? Paul, how do you handle that?
Well, once we've created our bubble of a relationship, and now that we've learned to listen to each other, which we're still in the process of doing, we would look at let's look at the balance of roles in our marriage. Let's sit down and look at who wants to be accountable for this, who wants to be accountable for that.
Right.
And so you say, well, I'll do laundry, you do the shopping. Yeah, also things like if you cook, they clean. Simple,
Right.
but it's all about communication. That's why what I do is marriage and communication. I have an entire set of tools that create domestic harmony and leave us deeply in love, devoted to one another.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much for calling and good luck. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right.
that's that can be very dicey when you get those situations that come up, but it goes back to the fundamental, which is what you're talking about, the communication, how you communicate, right?
Yes, and that's your door opener. Yes means I acknowledge that I heard what you said and lets you steer. Anything after the end, that's your future. And with a yes and an and, you're in charge of your future.
Any other personality types that we should be aware of?
I didn't mention probably thinkers and feelers.
Hmm.
And if anyone who's watched Big Bang Theory, is familiar with Sheldon, who lives his life cognitively, intellectually, and logically. He makes a plan, fulfills the plan, goes on to the next plan, and his feelings don't show up very strongly in his process. So when he has someone like Leonard or Penny, who are more feelers, it's not that he's ignoring their feelings, he just doesn't tune his noticer to their feelings, including his own. A thinker might say, what's a big deal? It's a yes or no question. The feeler says, well, I need more time to think about that. I'll come back and let you know. So the thinker is frustrated, and the feeler is also frustrated because it sounds like you don't care about them or their emotions. So we get to have a 360-degree life. The thinker honors the feeler's feelings, and the feeler honors the thinker's thinkings. And together we know which house to choose on HGTV.
Would you say the thinker is more of a logical kind of person?
Absolutely. I'm a thinker. Something comes in my screen, I analyze and figure it out first. But some people have an emotional response to when life shows up. And we also tend to marry each other. How interesting is that? Because if your feeler has the 128 crayon box of colors, and I have a 24 crayon box of colors, together we have 140 some odd crayons of life together. That's the advantage. We have a richer life together. She honors my capacity to think. I honor the joy and the opportunities of living with someone who responds emotionally. And together we have a life that works. When you go to 16personalities.com, you'll find out that you may have been loving them in your best love language, and it's not theirs. They want to be appreciated. You want quality time. You like physical touch and intimacy. They like to play. And once you know the rules of the dance, you dance for a lifetime.
What site is that?
16personalities.com. It's brilliant. It's the best cut on the Myers-Briggs world. And when you put it next to love languages, because my spouse is an extrovert and she's a feeler, and together I know how to leave her feeling most love, and she knows how to leave me feeling most love, because we know the rules of the road, our marriage.
It's interesting as we talk, I'm trying to process people I know and myself and put them into those categories. Now, if you go to the website, 16personalities.com, it'll be definitive. But the judger, the perceiver, I've got that. The thinker, the feeler. I'm not sure where I put myself because I am logical, solution driven, but I also have some emotion mixed in. I do often say I try to take my emotion out of things when I'm coming up with an answer or dealing with something. That has been my, I guess, in my journey. The facts, deal with the facts. They don't lie. Then I try to approach it from that way, but it's hard to take the emotion out, even if you're a thinker.
Don't forget, there's a percentage attached to the letters when you take the quiz. And I'll look in the world of professional, like you're a real estate agent, and your couple has a thinker and a feeler. You get to be responsible for what words you use, because if to a thinker you say mortgages, amortizations, monthly payments, mortgage lenders, because they listen to information. However, to their feeler spouse, you say, on Halloween, bring extra candy. There's tons of kids around here, just like your kids. And it's only half an hour to the Safeway, and it's, the foliage, and there's lots of trees and parks. So you speak trees, parks, and children to the feeler, and you speak mortgages, amortization to the thinker, and you have a sale.
Interesting.
You can't say anything to anybody without having some degree of awareness of who's listening.
You need to be quick on your feet in those situations, especially in sales, to identify who you're dealing with. And even more of a challenge in the real estate example, usually going to be two people. So you really have to figure out who they are very quickly so you can speak their language. Is it possible in a relationship to have two thinkers and or two feelers?
Certainly. I run into engineers all the time.
Okay.
Because Raytheon is a major employer here. And if you're two introverts, you have a lot of quiet time at home and you enjoy your life. If you have two thinkers, you're probably type A, what we call type A people. You go out to be engineer, they go out to be a real estate agent, and together you have a usually very financially abundant life because you really go after it. But if you're two introverts, you have a quiet time at home. You really focus on each other and your own pastimes and interests. So there's no wrong conversation. It's not about compatibility. It's about responsibility. Once you know who you're married to, you get to dance. It's really not much more complicated than that. And I'd be honored to, it's 5 sessions, about an hour and a half each, and you'll have what it takes to get to your 50th wedding anniversary at marriageandcommunication.com. And we can do it by Zoom. It's entirely accessible by Zoom.
I have to tell you, Paul, this stuff is out there. It's been out there for years, but you don't hear people talk about it like we're talking about it today. And you don't hear that it's going to be, I don't want to say easy, but at least you have the expectation. There's 5 sessions. You'll know what's going on in your relationship once you end in those 5 sessions. And now you can navigate and figure it all out. This is the most important thing in any, not just a marriage, but any real relationship that has some substance, even friends. Think about who your friends are and how you deal.
In the workplace, if you're the manager and you have staff, it pays to be attuned to who they are and how they listen.
Yeah.
Because you have different team members. Some people listen to the details, some listen for the impact of this new policy on the future of your company. A good enterprise has everything. And so it's equally valuable in the workplace. Friendships, parenting children. The children have their love languages and personality types. They become a little more developed when they get to be teenagers. But if your spouse, if their child says, let's do something, they're probably an extrovert. If they really light up when you appreciate their efforts and how well they did in school, they're probably, thinkers.
Yeah.
But there's a whole world available to once you can put on these filters that will empower you to live an extraordinary life. It's not complicated. 5 sessions and you'll have it.
Love it. Marriageandcommunication.com. Do I have that right?
Call me, contact me through the contact form. And I've helped couples in Austria, in Canada, Florida, and Ohio. If we, it certainly is valuable to be face to face here in Tucson, Arizona, but it's not necessary because this is a how-to. I will teach you how to maintain a quality relationship under any circumstances for the rest of your life.
So again, so important. And if you're somebody that's been through some relationships, you probably didn't study this stuff. I know, I admit, I should have. This should be done before you even get married.
It'd be in school.
Yeah.
2 teenagers with a yes and seems will be safe. Because one of them comes up with a particularly poor idea. The other one says, yes, I'm not sure I want to do that. And away they go. Yes, and it really belongs part of the high school curriculum at the very least.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to speak before you, enterprises and conferences. So give me half an hour and I will help you transform the way you communicate, period. As little as 30 minutes, we can begin the process.
Yes, and go to marriageandcommunication.com because it's all there. Wow.
It's all there.
Great talking with you today. Appreciate all of it. Lots of stuff I'm going to be thinking about till we get together next time. So until then, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I look forward to our next meeting next week.
Same.
It's a gift. Communication is an integral part of marriage. And when you miss it, you don't have a marriage.
Yeah. You, even a friendship, if you don't communicate properly to know what drives the other person, there's always going to feel like there's something off. All right. We'll get together next time and dig deeper into this. Thanks again.
Thanks for coming. See you next week.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.